Penguin Random House Audio presents Honor Bound, An American Story of Dreams and Service by Amy Mcgrath, with Chris Peterson. This is the author, Amy Mcgrath. To whom much is given, much is expected. Luke 12:48. To my mom and dad, my parents raised me to experience the world, to not be afraid, to love life, to care for others, and to follow my dreams. It is my hope that I can teach my own children to soar with purpose in their lives. And to Captain Asbury Coward IV, United States Navy, 1942 to 2021. He was my champion, my leadership role model, my friend. Introduction. 24 years as a Marine officer and F-18 aviator taught me how powerful the idea of home can be. That lesson was etched on my heart during my first combat deployment. In the spring of 2002, my squadron was sent to Gansi Air Base, a gritty green and beige collection of tents in Kyrgyzstan, on what had once been a Soviet long-range bomber base. Comfort isn't a consideration on bases built to support combat operations. Sleeping 12 to a tent in a busy air base where missions are flown 24 hours a day means hectic schedules and little alone time. The exception is an overnight shift as Operations Duty Officer, or ODO. Fighter attack jets have to be in the air around the clock to support ground operations at a moment's notice. FA-18s are incredibly complex and powerful machines, and so much can go wrong when one is in the air. It's essential that an air crew member, an FA-18 pilot or weapons systems officer, be listening at all times on the ground radios so that there is an expert to respond and assist any pilot experiencing a potentially catastrophic situation in flight. It's hard to keep your eyes open during the overnight shift. Sleep being a precious commodity in combat, ODO duty isn't popular. Regardless, I eagerly signed up for the first Sunday night in May. The shift corresponded to Saturday afternoon in America, where the Kentucky Derby would be in full swing. I'm a proud Kentucky native, with a love for the Commonwealth that runs bone deep and mirrors my love for America. The Ready Room tent had one of the few televisions on base. As ODO, I would have that TV to myself, and I desperately wanted to watch the Derby. It was a way to connect to family and home, to what I knew to be true. My family would be throwing our traditional Kentucky Derby party. My dad would greet people at the door and have drinks in their hands before they could even finish saying hello. My parents' modest living room would be packed with people creating a soundtrack of laughter. I could see my dad telling a joke or funny story as our neighbors waited for the punchline. I could smell the mint in the juleps. They would all watch the race on TV at the same time I did. It felt like a tangible link to that place, to my roots, and to all the people I cared about. I turned on the 30-inch Samsung, and the happiness flooded over me. It was a minor miracle that the American Forces Network was broadcasting the Derby. The network isn't predictable in what it chooses to broadcast, so it was a bit of Marine luck to find the race on the schedule. The radios were quiet. The Kyrgyz mountains were still draped with snow down to the foothills, and the tent was chilly. It didn't matter. In Louisville, at Churchill Downs, the weather was sunny and warm. Decked-out women in flamboyant hats waited in the grandstands for the race to begin. Men in blue-striped seersucker or white linen suits stood behind them, looking like country gentlemen from a century ago. Everyone had a drink in hand, and it was obvious they were having tons of fun. I reveled in the spectacle. Right before the race itself began, everyone stood to put their hand over their heart for the playing of the national anthem. If you're serving in uniform, the Star-Spangled Banner means something profound. It touches on why you're serving. The next song, though, struck an even deeper chord. Churchill Downs began playing My Old Kentucky Home. What seemed to be the entire well-dressed crowd in the bleachers throughout the paddock and even in the box suites at Churchill Downs began singing the words. My whole life, from as far back as I could remember, my parents had always thrown a fantastic party for the Kentucky Derby. A native son, my father loved having people over and celebrating what he saw as a special and unique feature of the Commonwealth. The tradition meant a lot to him. Because of that, it meant a lot to all his kids. Dad loved his family, God, the church, teaching, America, and Kentucky, not necessarily in that order. I learned to love all of those things as well. Watching the wonderful, colorful Derby happening 6,800 miles away, I ached for Kentucky. All the people in my parents' living room would be joyful and singing together, laughing when they forgot the words, and clapping at the end. Alone, bundled in my steel-toed boots, a flight suit, and my leather jacket, inside a cold canvas tent plunked down on a gravel plain next to a busy military airstrip, I got up out of my folding chair and stood while they played My Old Kentucky Home, just as I had been taught. I cried and thought, wow, I'm glad there are no other Marines in this tent. I wouldn't have wanted to try to explain my tears to a fellow Marine. I cried because I love Kentucky as fiercely as I love America. Like America itself, Kentucky is more than a place. It is home. I'm forever connected to the state and to the people who have always made it such a wonderful place for me to live. I dried my tears and sat back down. I watched every minute of that Derby, which was cold well water for a great thirst. I can't say I remember which horse won. I just knew it was the closest I would be to home for a long time. When we say that we're missing home, we're not just missing a place we call Kentucky, or South Dakota, or Ohio, or Virginia, or even America. Those are all just lines on a map and soil on the ground. Our love of place isn't about a place at all. It's about people, and the ideals those people share and hold dear. It's about what holds us together as one country. Home is, to me, my family's cathedral, attended by the faithful on any given Sunday. It is a Marine Corps unit, and the camaraderie we all felt in being part of an elite group in the greatest military in the world. It is the modest 3-bedroom ranch house I grew up in, one of many on a pretty suburban street in Edgewood, Kentucky. It is my parents, who believed in being good citizens, and that service and sacrifice were essential threads in the American fabric. That undistinguished house on a plain suburban street in middle-class America was pure happiness for me growing up. A single address on Brookwood Drive represented the heart and soul of America for me. My Kentucky, like my America, is about the people who have inspired me day in and day out. People who taught me about the most important ideas in the world: faith, patriotism, service, and sacrifice. Those people understand the importance of dignity, decency, honor, and compassion. Those are so much more than words to the Kentuckians I know and respect. And they aren't just words to most Americans. They are lights along the road that winds through American democracy, from 1776 to today. They are also responsibilities, obligations of how we must act as citizens. They represent the best that America, be it Kentucky or California or Texas, can be. People hold those words in their hearts. For so many of us, they are principles that serve as the North Star for the country itself. Like air, those ideals are most noticeable in their absence. We seem to be straying from those guiding lights, from the true meaning and value of what it is to be an American. America is at its best when everybody shares opportunity, as I was able to after federal law was changed to allow women to fly combat aircraft. This country embodies the idea that you run or fall according to your own skill, ability, and drive. The problem is, you can't get far if you never have the chance to run in the first place. When I was 10 years old, I met a Romanian refugee named Viorel. He was staying with my parents' friends Carlotta and Lloyd.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?